Many of us were taught about, and some of us may even remember, the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union in the 1960s and 70s. Since then, there appears to have been a bit of a lull in terms of public excitement about space exploration, but it also seems that literally this week, right now, in August of 2023, there may be a reinvigorated sense of interest in superpowers space exploration. So what is going on this week? Why is this particular week in August so important? And what does this mean for the future of space exploration? Well, India and Russia over the past 6 weeks have actually been in this competition to get to the south pole of the moon. Like the south pole of planet Earth, the south pole of the moon is a very rough, difficult place to travel to. It has not hosted human life, but India and Russia have endeavored to change that by being the first powers to go to the south pole of the moon. In 2008 and 2009, there was allegedly ice that was discovered by a robotic machine on this south pole of the moon. So why is that so important? So what? There's ice on the south pole of the moon. What does that mean for us? Well, astronauts and experts say that ice actually could provide fuel, oxygen, and drinking water for human settlement on the moon. So this was a big find, and now Russia and India, and then a little bit behind, China and the United States, want to be the first power to get to this South Pole, to get in charge of this ice. Because although a lot of superpowers have these written agreements about which parts of states, of space, belong to certain states, how it may be shared territory among different powers of Earth, really, when it comes to space exploration, it's a first-come, first-served basis. You can have all of the written agreements that you want, but really, the first country that gets their people, gets their technology on that space, in space, they kind of own it. Hence why there is such a big rush to get to the south pole of the moon. So over the past 6 weeks, as mentioned, both Russia and India launched objects into outer space to get to this south pole. On Sunday, so literally 2 days ago, it was announced that the Russian vehicle called Luna 25 actually crashed into the moon instead of successfully landing on its south pole. We will see literally in the next 24 hours whether India succeeds in getting to this south pole, because India has said that its space object is expected to land there by Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. So if India lands there first with the Russian object failing, that will be a big boon for India, both domestically and internationally. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is really counting on this to bolster domestic support. He has a general election coming up in just under a year, so this would be a big boon for him and his party, but also it would be a big boon geopolitically. It would put India really on the map as a power alongside the United States, Russia, and China. We know recently that India surpassed China in being the most populous nation on Earth. China has about 1.412 billion people, and India recently surpassed them with 1.413 or 1.414 billion. That may seem like just a technicality, but that was a big slap in the face to China. At least that's how China perceived it. They have a very severe demographic problem as a result of the one-child policy of the late 20th century and early 21st century. So for India to not only surpass China in population, but also potentially surpass them in moon landings, that would again be a real slap in the face, as I said, to China. Before we go on to China and the United States and how those powers are endeavoring to catch up to India and Russia, let me first tell you about my pillow. All competence comes from great sleep, whether that's competence in space exploration, competence in matters on Earth. We all really need a good night's rest. That's why I encourage you to check out MyPillow and all of their great products. I use MyPillow products. I walk into work wearing my slippers because they are so comfortable. I go home and I use MyPillow towels. I sleep on a MyPillow. I sleep on the Giza Dream bed sheets. I would not advertise a product that I didn't use, and you can use it too at a discount to boot if you use the promo code Hartman, which is my last name, spelled Hartman. Mike Lindell's latest deal is the sale of the year. For a limited time, you will receive 60% off of the Giza Dream sheets. That comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. You will get a set for as low as $39.99. Also, for a limited time, you will receive with any purchase Mike's soft cover book free with the promo code Hartman. Just go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listener square and use the promo code Hartman, or call 1-800-566-6745 and use the promo code Hartman. So India and Russia are not alone in this space race. China and the United States are trying to get in the game too, which is why I am arguing right now that we are seeing a reinvigorated space race here in 2023 since the bit of the 4-decade lull that has existed between the 1970s and now. Back in the 1960s and 70s, the Soviet Union and the United States were competing over supremacy in space because really that was kind of an allegory or a representation of their supremacy on planet Earth. The Soviet Union was actually the first country to successfully launch hardware on the moon. This was in 1966. They were also the first country to put a human being, Yuri Gagarin, in outer space in 1961, but the United States was the first country to put a man on the moon, not just a man in space. This was in 1969 with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. So all of us know about and may even remember what a big deal this was. Quickly, let's play a clip of that historic moon landing.
The surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder. Ground mass is very fine. I'm going to step off the limb. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Isn't that just amazing? Don't you just get the chills hearing that famous quote? One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. I think about the human beings 1,000 years ago, or even 500 years ago, who would stand and look up at the moon, this glistening bright orb in the sky, and they probably gazed up at that with such awe and wonder. Imagine if they were told that in 1,000 or 500 years from now, a human being would be on that object. We would be able to transport man from this terrain that you are standing on all the way up 250,000 miles to that object in outer space. It really is just incredible what the United States and mankind, apropos of that quote, achieved by bringing people to the moon. So here in 2023, as we are entering what people call this new Cold War between the United States and China and adjacently Russia, this geopolitical push for domination and power, the space race is coming alive again because people want to use that as a indicator of their prowess. China, over the past few years, has launched what's called the Chang'e project. That's called Chang''E. Chang'e is the name of the Chinese moon goddess. And they are not only trying to get people on the moon, but actually China announced that alongside Russia, they intend to open a jointly manned moon base by the year 2036. It has been staggering to see the rapidity of progress that China has successfully endeavored on to achieve this goal. China is actually the only country to have successfully landed on the moon in the 21st century. In 2019, they launched a probe which successfully landed on the moon's far side. Now, again, literally in the next 24 hours, India, in the case of a successful landing, may be the second power after China in the 21st century to land something on the moon. But so far, only China has done it. China also just sent 3 new astronauts to their newly built space station, which was completed last year. And Xi Jinping, the president of China, has said that space is a rightful Chinese colony. China, literally the name China, translates to Middle Kingdom. It is difficult for Americans to conceive or perceive this, but Xi Jinping and a lot of people in China literally view their civilization as the center of the world. So not only do they want to see that centrality of their country come into effect on planet Earth, but they also think that they have a rightful claim to the territory in space. So they have done successful reconnaissance missions, they have built a new space station, and they anticipate that the construction stage of this jointly administered moon base between Russia and China will start in 2026, and that they will be able to put people on the moon in 2036. The administrator of NASA, whose name is Bill Nelson, has said that the United States should, quote, watch out for Chinese attempts to dominate space terrain. Why? Because, as I said, space, despite all of the written agreements, is really a first come, first serve place. If someone gets there first, they really can kind of just take it over and all the other powers be damned. So that is what China is doing. Let's look at the United States. We had that big victory in 1969, putting the first people on the moon. We have been the biggest contributors in the building of the International Space Station. And NASA, about 3 years ago, launched what is called the Artemis program. This comes alongside China's Chang'e program. The Artemis program in the United States is a collaboration between NASA and the European Space Agency, Japan, Canada, Israel, and Australia. It endeavors to put people back on the moon by the year 2025. The problem is, A, 2025 is not that far away. It's less than 2 years away. And B, there have been a lot of delays on the projects that would make that timeline possible. Artemis 1 was a successful reconnaissance mission. This happened in November and December of 2022 when NASA sent an object 250,000 miles up into space. It successfully orbited about 80 miles off the surface of the moon, and it went for about 25 days until it successfully splashed down in the Pacific Ocean off of the coast of California on December 11th, 2022. So that was a successful reconnaissance mission, but the problem is that that mission was way delayed. It was supposed to actually happen about a year or 2 years earlier than it did. So because that was delayed, subsequent missions, Artemis 2, 3, 4, and 5, have gone down the timeline. So it may look awfully close. China has set the date of people on the moon as 2036. The United States has set it as 2025. But with these delays, it may be possible that we will get right up to the wire with China and Russia as far as getting people on the moon, in the same way that India and Russia have been right up to the wire with this landing an object on the South Pole, with Russia failing 2 days ago and India yet to be seen. On a final note, according to the NASA website, so this is open information, NASA has a particular goal with their space race, not just being technologically adept, not just getting, a safe mission afloat or aboard. They say that they want to hit some diversity, equity, and inclusion guidelines with regard to their space race. I wish I were making this up, but unfortunately I'm not. Again, reading from the NASA website, quote, NASA aims to land the first female astronaut and the first astronaut of color on the lunar surface. Look, some of you who might be listening may be thinking, you know, Julie, why are you throwing shade? What's so wrong about NASA wanting to say that they want to put the first woman and the first person of color on the moon? And look, I hear your hypothetical point. It's not that that in and of itself is a bad endeavor. Of course, I mean, who would oppose this? You know, if an astronaut happens to go to the face of the moon, it's a great thing if it would be a female or a person of color. My objection is not to that. My objection is the fact that this is what NASA publicly is claiming to really focus on. This is one of their main objectives with regard to their space race. So if this were kind of a side added benefit to their space race, no issue. But if this is the main goal, it seems that NASA is more concerned with peddling a woke worldview, with subscribing to a woke goal, than actually trying to hit a technological goal. Wouldn't it be so much better if NASA on its website said, hey, above all else, we are focused on hitting our timeline to beat Russia and China to get on the surface of the moon. We want to hit it by our expected date of 2025. We want to do so in a technologically sound way, and we want to do it in a safe way. That would make much more sense. But instead, it shows that wokeism has literally touched and infiltrated almost every institution of American society, including space exploration. You cannot help but wonder how India and China and Russia are reacting to NASA's assertion. They are probably cheering. They're probably thinking, good, let the United States focus on their DEI, and we will focus on a competent mission. Yet to be seen, and we will, of course, keep you abreast of any and all developments as they unfold. Just a reminder to hit the subscribe button down below so that you can stay notified every time I post a new video. Take care. I'll see you soon.